Hello, test. Am I audible?
Yes, you are, and your POI preference.
Oh yeah. My PI preference is that please just unmute yourself. I'm not going to be able to check the chat because I'm case building on Google Document. So yeah. I'm going to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. The problem with opening debate is that both sides of the house is just simply talking about the economic benefit, right? But moreover, OG, when people in the current status quo are literally addicted and there is no incentive for them to stop, they frame that our side will burden the wealth redistribution on the poor. But on their side, what's going to happen is literally letting the capitalistic tobacco industry to keep on profiteering from the disenfranchised groups, right? The minors and the poor. This is inherently evil because as government, your job is to protect them, right? And we will prove to you why the protection towards the vulnerable actor is going to be better on our side of the house. Why we say that this is very, very important. This is a very, very important analysis, but it's missing on opening opposition when they only simply talking about people who smoke without consent and also good governance. Right? This is not what we need to talk about. But there are more than that we're going to analyze on our side of the house. So before coming to my substantive, few rebuttals. Number one, in response to the OG, we don't think that people losing job is necessarily going to happen because since the very beginning, right? Because our side, we are not going to ban the existence of tobacco companies. If anything, high tax is benefiting directly towards the lower and middle class, even the blue collar workers that OG exactly wants to help through building infrastructure. Because tax is not only an activity of adding certain value to an item, but also a form of wealth redistribution, right? But on OG, they're going to let tobacco companies to keep on benefiting from the poor and the vulnerable people. We say that on our side, these people are going to think twice before they smoke, like how their family is going to suffer for not being able to buy rice because they lack 1,000 rupiah, for example, or when a student won't buy smoke anymore because then they won't be able to buy another trendy things or to jajan, right? But on the very worst case scenario, when people are still addicted and will still smoke anyway, there are other alternatives like vaping, electric smoke, or even nicotine patch, which are healthier, right? They will be high on demand and directly will lower their price too. Or even rokok linting, which is basically tobacco being produced independently by tobacco farmers without going through companies. So OG case is basically irrelevant because it can be altered and not going to harm the poor at all. Second of all, regarding layoff, we think that layoff is less likely to happen too, right? Because layoff is actually very, very expensive. You literally need to pay pesangon for all of the workers. But if you're simply highly taxing tobacco, you don't have to do layoff, right? Because it will create better dynamic in fulfilling the demand of the nicotine sensation. Exactly why companies will start making vapes, nicotine patch, etc. Because exactly they will buy tobaccos no matter what, right? But the incentives to create a healthier alternatives will be there, and I will explain to you furthermore on my speech. In response to CG, we don't understand why when we raise this tax to these companies, they would suddenly be bad actors, right? Because government will always pressure them, and the activists will always call them to adjust with the AMDAL, for example. We think that activists would always be able to protest the mischievous behavior, right? But we don't think that companies would sacrifice their publicity for this, right? It is too much to pay since the very beginning. But first of all, we think that CSR are not the best response to this because yes, these companies would probably still give scholarships or make university like Sampurna, for example. But this is just them gaining more profit from creating schools, right? Because the amount of profit that they're getting from creating private schools is not berbanding with the amount of scholarship that they are giving. Because people who can gain scholarship would also be privileged people too anyway, who have better CV. So the redistribution of wealth is not actually good under their CSR. So what's going to happen under our side of the house? First of all, we're going to explain to you why this is actually just going to work under the mechanism of sin tax. And second of all, we're going to explain to you why we should exclusively tax heavily tobacco companies. First of all, regarding the mechanization of sin tax, we say that will work just like alcohol in the current status quo, where we make it exclusive and expensive so it can only be accessible to certain people, but also gives additional revenue to the country, right? This will compensate the negative impact that alcohol and tobacco has caused. But moreover, this is profitable, right? But tobacco is so inclusive that tobacco companies are creating oligopoly on the macro level, influencing the price to be low, etc. But there are literally no incentive for this company to create better and healthier alternatives because they know that the impoverished people are addicted and habituated. Therefore, increasing tax is a strategy to trigger this dynamic, right? To create new market of better way to smoke, which indirectly in line with the government's agenda, right? Because exactly, health seminar is wishy-washy, just like what the opening government is claiming. Ancaman through terrible pictures on the cover also doesn't work because people need a tangible change and a tangible alternative that will suit them and give them this sense of calmness, right? Tobacco companies would not suddenly hurt the labor's environment or even smuggling, because they still get benefits from the alternatives that produce and also to create, right? But second of all, why we should exclusively tax tobacco heavily, right? First layer of analysis, we say that tobacco is highly profitable. One of the richest people in Indonesia currently is literally the CEO of Jarum, right? We said that this kind of people are benefiting from people who are not rational enough, right? They are not able to, because they are not able to weigh the harms and the benefits of smoking. All they know is that smoking is cool, etc. Like the middle school students or the poor people who smoke just to relieve their stress, right? Within that highly taxing this is also in line with government's agenda for wanting to limiting smoking activity, because government is under dilemma that when they want to regulate they want to regulate this will limit the tobacco consumers. But before that, yes, OG, please.
CO benefit is contingent on the likelihood of limitation. Notice that you cannot limit in status quo that we prove, irrespective of the existence of healthy alternative. Even people sacrifice their other primary goods, meaning that you harm the blue-collar workers and the most vulnerable.
No, we don't think that is going to happen, because it's just simply going to play under the supply and demand mechanism, right? We think that the reason why people currently are not going to vape or doing another alternative of smoking is exactly because the price are still very, very high, because there are no demand for that, right? On our side of the house, when people already realize that tobacco is a luxury item, they will try to find another alternative that is affordable to them and will also fulfill their needs to smoke, right? Therefore, they don't exactly have to sacrifice their money or eventually sacrifice their health, because there are another better alternatives anyway. So we don't think that OG POI can be credited, right? But second of all, exactly because tobacco directly harms people, right? It benefits from the fact that people are smoking terrible substances inside the cigars itself. It is addictive. But other than that, smoking is so accessible and inclusive, regardless of your activity. Like even middle schooler are smoking, and there are no regulation at all, right? It shows to you how evil they are, that they don't actually care about these people and profit oriented only. Making this as a luxury item will make it only accessible to the rich, just like nightclubs and alcohol, which are inclusive. So the comparative on our side of the house, we are going to trigger a better production of another alternative that will be affordable towards people, but also healthier, right? But on their side of the house, what's going to happen is just simply people are just going to smoke just in the current status quo. Anak-anak SMP sekolahan who doesn't know that smoking is bad, they will keep on smoking, and because this company only care about the profit and the benefit from people who are irrational to smoke. By all of those reasons, we said that our interpretation towards this motion is much more superior than the other side of the house, and by all of those reasons, we are very proud to oppose this motion. Thank you.